recently I heard a sobriety author talking about you can't do this alone. You've got to open your mouth. Sorry. And that relates to the power of sharing within sobriety communities primarily. And I've talked about that. I even have a video, number 5 on that. Very important part. One of the reasons is it's doing hard things sober, ideally almost daily. But also, I've learned about the power of talking in terms of its impact on your prefrontal cortex, which I'm learning is the key to almost everything, particularly as it relates to strong mental health. So, I had a video number 55 and 56 related to suicide, and I made the connection between that and drinking in terms of cravings and how our midbrain essentially takes over, which is our survival mechanism and allows for no rational thought, essentially no willpower. Our prefrontal cortex essentially can shut down when that happens. And the term is called limbic friction, when those two parts of the brains are out of whack. And it's so important. So, and I talked about how most people don't actually want to commit suicide, but they found that close to 60% of people had no documented evidence of telling someone they had thoughts or plans of ending their life before they actually did. Those were people who actually died by suicide, and they did not have any evidence that they had talked to anybody. So the video talked about how powerful even just talking is in terms of suicide prevention. Today I just want to talk about talking about problems in general and why that is so powerful. And like many of my videos now, not just for those who struggle with alcoholism, but just, as I said, in life and mental health in general. Strong prefrontal cortex everybody needs. It builds resilience, which is the key to life. So, what happens, they call, when you talk and you put your feelings into words, they call that affect labeling. And it can reduce the response of the amygdala, the midbrain, which is the brain's alarm system. And it plays a crucial role in processing emotions related to stress and anxiety. And there's a term called amygdala hijack. And it's when the amygdala overreacts to a perceived threat, and it overrides your rational thinking, that's your frontal cortex. Essentially, again, it overrides that, overpowers it, and it leads to an intense and often irrational emotional response to a perceived threat that may or may not be real or severe. And it can result in actions or words you might later regret. And again, this is in a general sense, but it parallels what happens when we get a craving and the cortex shuts down, our rational thought is gone, and we're left with the emotional midbrain, which has no rational thought. And I have a video on that, even explaining about a woman who drove severely intoxicated with a 2-year-old, and how people that were bashing her in the press were trying to apply rational thinking to an irrational disorder. So it's so important. So again, so what can happen here, by talking and labeling emotions, it actually activates the language part of your prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate and dampen the midbrain, the amygdala's emotional response. How amazing is that? So that is the primary benefit. Beyond that, although there's more to come, beyond that, holding back thoughts and emotions can be stressful. So you lessen that burden, and you enhance your ability to manage emotions down the road. Huge. And next one, enhance cognitive function. Talking about your problems requires organizing thoughts, which engages, guess what? The prefrontal cortex. So that can lead to clear understanding and insight. And it's a short-term social interaction, including talking, has been linked to improved intellectual performance, such as memory and processing speed. Amazing how this all links together. It can also, talking, just be cathartic and offer validation and a sense of connection. I talked to my mother about deep conversation. She's like, I don't even know what those are. And I said, just talking about your problems can be a deep conversation. And this validates that. Again, what I just said, it offers validation and a sense of connection. Now, and important to note, note to end on is that simply complaining or dwelling on negatives is called co-rumination. You know, ruminating is dwelling on thoughts. Co-rumination is doing that with another person. And that can actually increase stress and prolong the impact of a problem. So what you have to do is be constructive in talking about problems and focus on processing emotions and finding solutions. And I must say, I've witnessed this in my sober communities. The frequent ruminators seem to often be coming back with the same problems and aren't embracing funbriety like those of us who are always trying to find solutions, often with the help of AI. Thank you. So the overall message is, talking about problems can be beneficial for emotional and cognitive function when approached constructively, and that sharing is caring for yourself. So that'll do it. As always, stronger, sober. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks.